My 27, female, marriage is falling apart with the love of my life, 32 male, because of his brother, 35 male. I will preface this by stating that I love my husband and will do anything it takes to stay with him till the end. We dated for 2 years before marrying last year, and before him, my life was a mess. Now, I am the happiest person alive with him and never want this relationship to end. I will use fake names for my husband, John, and his brother, Brian. To start, this all began a year ago before the wedding. Brian had always been a screw up his entire life, but 2 years ago sobered up and moved in with his and John's parents. John's father owns a car dealership and is quite wealthy. John grew up quite rich but never liked the lifestyle and decided to become a nurse instead of working for his father. Brian started working at the dealership and has turned his life around, according to John's parents. I had met a few times and he had creeped me out and was very inappropriate. He commented about my ass and even tried to grope me once, but John stopped him. I was very adamant before the wedding about not inviting Brian. John has a strong relationship with both parents, and it's a reason why I admire him. So when John's parents would not attend if Brian could not, I gave in and invited Brian. That is where everything went wrong. The wedding was amazing, but Brian came up with a so-called prank. He found a half-full can of red paint in a church utility closet and thought it would be funny to dump it on me after the ceremony. When I went to the bathroom, he jumped around a corner and splashed the paint all over me and the dress. I was hysterical and wanted to call the cops on Brian. John calmed me down and kicked Brian out of the wedding. A bridesmaid lived nearby and I used her shower and she lent me a dress to wear. From then on, I have never talked or been near Brian. John is very understanding, but every year insists we got to his parents for Thanksgiving and Christmas. He will not budge and says that he cannot cut his parents out of his life. However, Brian is still living with his parents and attended Thanksgiving and Christmas with them last year. I somehow got through both last year, never going near Brian and staying next to John the entire time. Last week, I got sent an image of a penis, then a text following saying, "I bet your mine is bigger than my brother's." I do not know how he got a hold of my number, and I was disgusted beyond all belief. I wanted to again call the cops, but John told me that we just allow for Brian to torment us more. Yesterday, I told John I will not attend Thanksgiving or Christmas with his family under no circumstances. John was very conflicted about the whole matter. He said that his parents are great people and that Thanksgiving and Christmas are all he has with them. This has been by far the biggest strain on our relationship, and I can feel John and I moving apart. I do not know how to discuss this with John, and I need help. I have never done this before, and for the first time, I am going to the internet with this issue and instead of John. What can I do to fix the situation? Am I being irrational with my demands?
Holy shit. You need to sit your husband down and have a serious talk with him because he is ultimately enabling his brother's behavior. His brother is literally sexually harassing and assaulting you, even when you haven't seen him for months and have very little contact with him. What might happen if he manages to get you alone, even for a few minutes? Had John spoken to his brother about this behavior at all? If they're not willing to handle it internally, you need to do what is best for you in case it escalates further, even including involving the police. And if your husband insists on holidays with his family over your safety, then he can go alone. You're not being demanding to insist that you not be sexually harassed by your brother-in-law. That's a perfectly average request after the crap he's pulled. Why not invite his parents to your place with the insistence that Brian stay home? I don't get how your husband isn't on your side of all of this. Brian has been nothing but shitty and inappropriate with you. If your in-laws won't acknowledge it, fine, but your husband, the family he's creating should be more important than the one he was born into. He needs to find his spine and set boundaries with his family such that you don't have to spend time around Brian. If he can't, maybe he's not actually the man you thought he was when you married him. Sit him down and have a real heart-to-heart with your husband about how it makes you feel that he's unwilling to stand up for you. How much it hurts that you're the target of his brother's gross behavior, but he still expects you to sit with that asshole at family gatherings like he hasn't been awful to you. Regardless, don't put yourself through going to his family's house this year. If he can't understand that, you two aren't meant to be married anyway. You wouldn't be the first person to marry a person you thought was your everything, only to have him turn out to be a bad choice. Alright, this isn't gonna be easy to hear, but John is being a coward and enabler. Yes, he has a strong relationship with his parents, but the moment that puts a strain on your relationship, he should not hesitate as much as he is. You are not being unreasonable. Hell, I think you're not being demanding enough. Something will give here. It's only a matter of time. You and John have to sit down and communicate what exactly that is going to be. Your marriage or the enabling ? The simplest solution here is go to the cops and get a restraining order against Brian. Of course, it's also the nuclear option, which will piss off John and his family for calling his brother out on his bull. Sadly, people don't like to face their ugly truth. TLDR. John needs to grow a pair and be your husband. You're not being unfair to anyone with common sense, and if you want to take this in your own hands, just go to the cops. He's physically assaulted you once, sexually harassed you at least twice. There seems to be an increasingly alarming trend. I worry that, if you don't report this to the police, he is going to end up doing far worse than he has already. Dude, he threw paint on you on your wedding day. I'm shocked your husband even has anything to do with him at this point. Your marriage is falling apart because of your husband. Jesus Christ, reread what you wrote. A man assaulted you on your wedding day and is now sexually harassing you, and your pathetic coward loser of a husband doesn't defend or do right by you. Your husband is a piece of shit. Your husband clearly isn't willing to take the necessary measures to protect. This says a lot about him. Clearly, he seems to care more about his family more than he cares about his wife, the person he is supposed to spend his life with. I want to ask, have you tried telling your in-laws about Brian is doing? If so and they have done nothing, then I would recommend you call the police. I only see two outcomes. Either you learn to stand for yourself or you grit your teeth and suffer through it, because clearly your husband isn't going to help. Make your choice. His parents aren't great people if they're aware of these incidents and still allowing their idiot son to be around when you come over. This family has protected Brian and are clearly stating you are not important enough to put above him. Your husband needs to stand up for you. Why is he just brushing this off? Do you want to deal with this for the rest of your life? Also, stop giving in to these people. Twice in this post you've bent to their own demands. Just let him go to the holidays by himself. Go to your parents, or hang out with a friend instead.